All right, I am so excited. This is one of my favorite soups. Cauliflower, potato, and leek. And it's a really good soup to learn how to make because then you can make other soups from this whole idea. You could add seafood to it, you could add shrimp to it, you could add crawfish to it, you could remove something. So it's a good foundation soup to understand. So I have an extremely fresh and gorgeous head of cauliflower. I want to cut off the stem here, and you want to wash it really well. I will tell you that flies like to hide in cauliflower for some bizarre reason. I have found more than one. So I've cut it, and now I need to go wash it. And once it's washed, then I can begin to cut it into smaller pieces. And you want the pieces to be even so that they cook evenly. All right, so the cauliflower is ready to go. I'm going to put it in a bowl. We call this mise en place. Mise en place means everything in its place. And it's all the ingredients that we need to make the dish. Mise en place. So cauliflower is done. And I'm going to do the leek. So with the leeks, leeks grow in sandy soil. And you need to wash them well. I cut the green part from the white part. I split the leek in half. And what I will do, I'll cut the end off just because it's probably bruised and a little beaten up, but you can see right here, that is sand. All of that is sand. I'm going to use the green part when I go to puree the soup. It will give it lots and lots of vitamins and beautiful color and great leek flavor. And I don't think people used to do that. I don't think they actually used to use the top. So I'm going to cut this one more time, the leek, and then I'm going to slice it. And so that needs to be washed. And then I will be ready to go with that part. The next is the potato. So I'll put that here. So I'm going to separate the white part of the leek from the green part of the leek because the green part goes in at the end. I'm going to cut my potato, and again, you want the potato size to be consistent. Cut it in half, cut it and quarter it, and then cut it evenly so it cooks evenly. So the potato's ready. I have an onion. Put the potato in here. It's a nice group of mise en place. So with the onion, small dice. Hold the onion down. You have to have a sharp knife to do this. You attempt to do this with a knife that isn't sharp, you're going to cut your hand. And you can cut your hand with a sharp knife, so be careful anyway. And the more you cut an onion or chop an onion like this, the more you will be used to how it goes. All right, so now we have all the things we need. Onion, leeks, cauliflower, potato. The tops of the leeks, I have butter to cook in. I have cream, and I'm also going to be using fresh black pepper, cayenne pepper, which is super important. And something I don't always do is I'm going to put, this is saffron from Iran. This is a brass mortar and pestle. I'm going to put a pinch of saffron in this soup because I know, again, the flavor is going to be gorgeous because of it, and also the color is very pretty as well. But obviously the most important thing is that the flavor in the soup is fantastic. So a little bit of saffron. That's a step you can omit if you would like to. Now we're going to cook the soup. One of the things you need is a stainless steel pot. We're working with cream, and if you have an aluminum pot, cream reacts with that. So you really need a good stainless steel pot with a heavy bottom, something that's high quality. It is worth it. It is worth it to invest in it if you can afford it. Into good pots, good knives, good tools, and with good knives and tools and pots, they'll last forever if you take good care of them. So I have butter melting in the pot. That's what I'm going to be cooking in, and it's good. I'm adding my onions and leeks, the white part of the leek, and that will saute until it's tender. You do not want it to begin to caramelize. You just want it to sweat and become tender. And it only takes a couple minutes in a hot pan. So I'm still on high heat. That's doing very nicely. And oh my gosh, the smell of the leeks, it's really, really, really beautiful. Leeks are just a great thing to cook with. You can do a lot of things with leeks. And these are nice because the tops were really, really green. And they were sort of, it was a smaller leek. It was only probably about that big. And they're tender. And it just smells so good. All right, so the next thing, it's nice and tender. That's ready to go. Now I'm adding the cauliflower. So the cauliflower goes in. And I don't need to cook it. I don't need to saute it. What I'm doing right now is sauteing. I don't need to saute the cauliflower, but I do want to stir it around. And I'm adding cream. And by the way, if you have chicken stock, you could add 75% cream, 25% chicken stock, if you like. And that will also give the soup really great flavor. So the cream is in there now. I'm going to add salt. Just a pinch of cayenne pepper. Freshly ground black pepper. I like to freshly grind it. It has more flavor. You can get a lot of really cool pepper mills now. I'm going to add the saffron. The other thing I could add to this soup is a little bit of white wine. So that needs to come up to a simmer. Once it comes up to a boil. Once it comes up to a boil, we'll turn it down to a slow simmer and let it cook very, very gently until everything's tender, the potatoes and the cauliflower. And the other thing I might add is a little bit, just a pinch, because nutmeg can go too far really quickly and can overwhelm something. So just literally a pinch of nutmeg in too. It's very pretty. I highly suggest that. So you can see how beautiful it already is with the saffron in here. I mean, you could also make this soup where you don't puree it, but you have to cut everything uniformly. So the onions would have to be perfect, the leeks would need to be perfect, the cauliflower would need to be in tiny pieces. But you could do this without pureeing it. That's a different soup. That's something you probably want to serve with some crusty French bread. So I'm going to let it work, and it's starting to come up to a boil now. So like I said, I will turn it down to a simmer. I'm going to taste it to make sure that it has enough salt and all the seasonings. And just remember that the next step, when it's ready, is to puree it in a blender. And we will add these leek tops at that time. And this has some fibers in it because of the leeks. So when you do puree it, you want to strain it through a fine sieve, like a chinois, and that will take out all the particles from the leeks. This is the cauliflower, potato, and leek soup, and the beautiful green color comes from the fact that I added the green leek tops at the end of the cooking. And otherwise it would be pretty much a white soup. You could garnish with just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil on top. It'll sit beautifully on top of the soup. We will garnish it with arugula oil that we make in-house. You could add a little bit of grilled shrimp pieces and bite size to the soup. You could add crab meat to this soup. That would be incredibly good. Or you can just serve it the way it is. So enjoy.